So welcome everybody. I'm Nancy Kinder. We set up the Knowledge and Community Network a couple of years ago. We felt there was a bit of a gap between knowledge management professionals and community managers, and that there's lots of things we could share and learn together. We've had lots of webinars and things so far. They're all available on YouTube. We've had some informal meetups, and we've met up with other partner companies like CMX and Kin and Henley, trying just mostly to connect people that work together. I don't know why, but we seem to work independently, and there's so much better value could be had if we connect regularly with peers. We're often doing this job internally or for the communities that we operate in, but maybe not so good externally. So we felt we should help that happen more regularly. And then kindly someone said, oh, your webinars are quite collaborative, Nancy, and Michael, they're great at keeping everyone engaged throughout. So we're today trying to share some of those things that we've learned along the way. So you maybe will be inspired and try them for yourself. So before I hand over to the other speakers to introduce themselves, I worked for Cadbury for 11 years. I was a global knowledge manager there, and I built up over 60 internal and external communities. For the last 7 years, I've been independent, and I try and help other companies not make the same mistakes that I made, and really sort of practice what I preach and share those lessons learned. So yeah, if you need anything on those sorts of things, please contact me. Over to you, Michael.
Yeah, I'm Michael Norton. I'm from Knowledge Hub. So I've been running sort of communities for the last sort of 16 years with the public sector, which are quite a few guys on here actually from the Knowledge Hub. I've seen different names I recognise quite well. And I got to know Nancy via the Kin network at Warwick Business School, and also got to know Judy through the Henley Knowledge Management Forum as well. So Judy was the sort of our host there, the main person there. So I'll pass you over to Judy now to introduce yourself.
Hello everybody, I'm Judy. I'm in my TARDIS at the bottom of the garden. I've been doing knowledge management forever. One of the things that I've done recently is work on the knowledge management standard, the ISO knowledge management standard, so you can blame me partly if you don't like it. Back to you, Nancy.
Oh, thank you. And one of the things we just did there, just to share, is we changed our background. I was supposed to be in Ibiza with my sisters this week, so I thought it was apt to have a background. I'm sure many of us aren't right where we expect to be. But what we've noticed is with the under Zoom and under preferences, you can change your background, and that's particularly useful for people from different companies. So you could have a logo or something in the background that might help. And also when you're introducing yourself there, I just turned off the share sliding screen, so you could see, if you had it on speaker view, you could see each of our faces more close up, and we just find that that works well. I said we're MIA because we're really missing in-person activities, but we hope today we'll try and make it feel as in-person as possible in this virtual world. We get asked so often, are we going to share the recording? And definitely 100%, everyone that registered will get a copy of the slides, a copy of the recording, and you can share that as much as you like. Okay, what I'd like to start with now is get to know some of you, who is on the call, what experience you've had, and maybe what your experience of webinars are so far. So hopefully now everyone that's dialed in through the web app should be able to see the poll on their screens. And you can now vote on these questions. So do you run webinars? Are you doing it regularly, or maybe you're just starting, or maybe you've never done it before? What's the usual size of the webinars you run? Are they less than 25? Are they between 25 and 100? Or are they over 100? And then some information for us. It's really useful to know if you've ever attended any of these webinars that we've done before. And we can send you links to the previous ones as well. If you voted, then we would ask you to share your current experience in the chat. So we do this #hello because it's really simple and easy. Just one word that best describes your current webinar experience. So I'll give you a couple more minutes to complete the poll, and then I'll share the results, and we'll get a flavour of who's on the call today. Welcome, Rosemary and Joe. If you've just joined, we're just running a poll to see if you've had experience with webinars before. Great to see some of the hashtags coming there. Okay, I'm going to stop the poll, and I'm going to share with you the results. hopefully you can all see that. So mixture really. Most people have done it before, either regularly or just starting, and there's only a few of us, 25% that have never done it before. And then the size, so it sounds like the majority, 70% is small ones, so less than 25, so collaborative ones, I would imagine. And then high percentage of people, 75% have never attended a webinar with us before, so that's great. And I'll just have a quick look at
I want to get to see the poll results. Great.
You could see the poll results. Oh,
that's interesting. As a host, a co-host, you can't see the poll pop up. But I've seen the poll results now. You published it, so that's great.
Ah, cool. So look at the chat. We've got chaotic, creative, emerging, efficient, learning. Oh, these are fabulous. Thank you for sharing those. Right.
We've got a boring as well.
A boring. Hopefully that won't be the feedback from today. We do the polls because I'm going to hand over to you, Michael, now to start sharing, but just for commentary really, we find hopefully from doing that you can see that you're in a group of people maybe that have got similar experience from you, or have had or different, and it's really nice to experience that. The hashtags, keep them simple, what you want people to contribute in the chat, and hashtags is a good way to do that. So Michael, I'm going to hand over to you.
Is that all full screen for you? Is that all working?
We can't see it yet, Michael.
Okay, might press the right button might help. Wait. Yeah.
And then I'm going to leave Ibiza sadly, and I'm going to go back to my normal background.
Is that better? Is that working?
It's working, Michael. Yep.
Yeah. Right, yeah. This is always press the share button. So why are we going to run a webinar about running webinars? Well, the reason behind that is really quite simple. So this thing turned up. It's the virus that cannot be named. It's possibly me watching Harry Potter too much, so we can't really talk about it. But also, what's happened from that is that now we're running. Everyone's now working from home a lot more. So this is pretty much my office. This is how I look normally. And from that as well, we realised that a lot of face-to-face events have all been cancelled. So we now need to go and change how everything works. And all my notes have disappeared. That's typical, isn't it? On this, because I've done this. So there's been this massive rush to move everything online. So everyone's been like working from home, trying to adapt, using Teams, using different things where they've never done it before. And it's not easy to do, to sort of package and repackage the things you've done face to face into a more virtual environment. So this is part of the reason why we sort of got this together. And as Nancy mentioned earlier on, that someone asked us, David Spinks from CMX, who's got this massive big community, God knows how many hundreds of thousands of people are part of that, asked the question, who's been doing this for a while? And lucky enough, Serena, who works for Alzheimer's Society, said, we've been doing some nice stuff, and maybe you should check us out. So that was quite a nice endorsement. And from that, we then roped Judy in to join us, to help run this idea about how we can sort of share some of the things we've done regarding webinars. So we hatched this plan, and because I like Batman, that's why I always get Batman in my presentations. And also the other key thing, if you ever run any webinars, you must quote Wikipedia at some point during your webinar. So an interesting bit was that I put in the Wikipedia webinar, and webinars now been directed to web conferencing. And I was like, I'm not too sure about that, because web conferencing is a bit too broad of a term at the moment. When you start looking at web conferencing, what does it actually mean? It can be anything from a communications thing, a panel, customer stuff. It could be onboarding, scrum meetings, training, and it's not really what we were focusing. We wanted to make it more of an educational element as part of our webinar. We wanted to sort of focus on the different elements that you can bring into a webinar to make it more engaging. So Q&As, keynotes, panels, interaction, polls, chats. So there's a whole different range of sort of ideas you can bring into this to make it all work for you. So today is all about really trying to experience different ideas and different sort of things you might want to take away, things that might work and might not work for you, things you can really try out. This is supposed to be a safe environment for you just to play around, see what happens. And have you been to an event where the presenter read from the slides verbatim with no emotion or passion, and you thought, why am I even here? I guarantee you have. You could click on these things, you won't do anything, but I just wonder if anyone will do this anyway. But this is what normally happens for a lot of the webinars I've seen online. It's just someone reading off the slides. They're not really engaging, they're not bringing anything interactive as part of it. And as we mentioned, all three of us come from the KM background. We love doing things before, during and after all our type of work we do. So I'm doing the dull part, the before bit. Nancy and Judy get to do the fun slide stuff during, all the fun interactive stuff, and we'll do a bit of reflection at the end of it. So that's how the sort of like our little session is going to run. So now on to the boring part. So this is all about the planning. But before we start that, is there any other key hashtags that have come up in discussion, Nancy?
Yeah, we've got baby steps, mixed bag, and there was one more, usually suboptimal and messy. So that's quite interesting. I hope that won't be the feedback from today. Thanks, Michael. Back to you.
Yeah, let's go sort of find my right slides and so I can get the right bits on this now. All right, here we go.
If you've just joined, please introduce yourself on the chat. We're going to break out into groups in a mo, or halfway through, and it'd be lovely to, at least get a flavour for who's on the call, so you know who you're talking to. Thank you.
Okay, so we've broken it down into sort of 8 key steps to the planning part, the sort of the before part of all sort of webinars. And so we're going to quickly go through those. And these are the bits that if you don't get them right, the webinar becomes messy. As you mentioned there, it's a bit scruffy around the edges, things don't quite work, people become disengaged as part of it. So hopefully some of the bits we've gone through, and we've got our little list at the end of this about what works and what doesn't work for us as well. So really it's all about the audience, like who's going to be attending, and look at what challenges they're facing today. Think about the purpose, what's the goals of the webinar you're trying to do, and even look at some of the outcomes, like are you looking at some sort of takeaways at the end of it, or something to do differently, some sort of way you can change things. So a lot of it said the webinar elements is more educational. And the topics part can be a whole mixture of things around there. So really it's about that content, making sure people are learning, that they're getting something different and interesting, rather than just the usual bog standard stuff that you can find all over the place. So this is really what it's all about. It's those sort of key basics as part of it. When it comes to the format part as well, this is really weird. It moves across the slides, but not my notes. Right, there we go. So format, so different software allows you to do different things. So we're using Zoom at the moment, so we're going to play around with breakout rooms. We've got polls on there. You've also got the chat options. Other ones don't allow you to do that. So wherever you're looking to do different approaches, look at the technology you have and then pick the approach that works for the technology as well. When you're looking at when you're going to do this, normally we'd say Tuesdays are a good time, so we pick Tuesdays. But because of all these homeschoolers at the moment, and we're all over the place, we don't know when the good times are. So it's really trying to find out from potential members or your audience what works best for them, because different people have different arrangements, different things are going on at the moment. It's not the usual day-to-day work which everyone's been doing in the last sort of year or so. The help bit is really important. So if any of you have listened to any radio shows, you never hear one person talk. You always have at least 2 on there. It's something to do with the way we learn and the way we pick up on things. So always get a co-host. Always look to have people helping you behind the scenes. So it could be anything about like helping people do the technology, helping people just check on the chat. So that help bit is so important. Trying to run a webinar all by yourself is really, really difficult to do because you get distracted so easily. And the testing bit, and me, Nancy and Judy must have tested this 3 or 4 times, and every time we've tested Zoom over the last 3 or 4 weeks, it keeps changing. Something new happens, a new bit appears, the new security settings get changed on. And that's what's going to happen on a lot of these new sort of like the web conferencing platforms. They're going to be evolving so quickly that every time you look at it, something will probably change over the next sort of 6 months, because they are looking to beat each other, start to catch up with each other as well. So they all have similar types of functionality as they go forward. So that's just your basic planning of what you want to do as part of the webinar. The last bit, and this is one that I always find quite frustrating, people put great content together and they forget to promote it. They don't really promote it in the right areas. So really it's all about the promotion. Look at where your audience is going to potentially be. Is it going to be on social? Do you use emails? Do you use newsletters? Do you have a community space? Do you do it on your internal platforms? Promote it really well. Tell people all about it. And that's really the key behind this. And if you go to something like GoToMeeting, they come up with nice little statistics about if you're looking to do a webinar. So normally most webinars, you plan about 4 weeks in advance to start promoting it, and you can promote it in different ways, newsletters, website, blogs, social, email. So normally a lot of people will start the booking really for the last week or 2. Well, we looked at this as well. We only did a 2-week turnaround for this one. And ours was only via Twitter, LinkedIn, and via different community spaces. So we had 72% people join in the last 7 days. So we had a 2-week turnaround to get this up and running. So it's interesting. It's starting to evolve and adapt over time. And the last thing about the planning as well is it's amazing content as part of it. Don't just leave it as a webinar. There's potential. You can do lots of things with it. You can make it into some snippets of videos, make it into a podcast, you make it into a blog post, infographics, case studies. There's all this different material you can make a webinar into. So it lasts for a longer time, it evolves, and also gets people to draw back into maybe watching the video again at some point in the future. So this is all about the planning. If you've got all these right, it really helps you sort of adapt. I mean, some of our videos that they're getting watched again and again and again, because every now and then someone will mention, oh, there's this video here, or someone puts a comment out there, so, oh yeah, we've got a video on that, you might want to go and watch it. So that's really useful that you can, these videos last for a long time, and the recordings are great to have as well. So I'm going to now pass you onto the fun stuff with Nancy and Judy. So Nancy, do you want to take over?
Hi, sorry, I was on mute then. I wasn't sure because I was tapping on the chat whether that was interrupting the noise for your session. So these are a few tips that we've experienced over the last couple of years that might be helpful to you. So on the back of what Michael said, we prepared, we really thought about it before. We knew that the audience, there was a need, they confirmed that they needed our help. We wanted it to be to experience it as much as possible, but in a friendly, safe environment, because then we might inspire our audience to try some of these things in their own sessions. Obviously, the focus is collaborative webinars. We wanted that balance of listening and trying different things. It's happening now, if you haven't realised. And we've had listed help. So thank you very much to Martin, Becca and Debbie, who are going to help us with the breakout rooms. And as Michael said, we did practice it, believe it or not. So the 8 things we think you could try is hopefully what you've experienced this afternoon, that really warm welcome, a bit of an explanation on what the collaborative format is, running some bonding polls. I'm going to go through these in a bit more detail, making sure the viewing experience is as optimized as possible. Invite questions and discussions throughout so that it feels like people are engaged and following the content. Give them some breakout activities, perhaps even co-create some materials. And then at the end, really make sure you get that real-time feedback. We want to make sure that we're doing exactly what we said. So any outputs that come from today, we will share with you. So that warm welcome, you know, it's a bit awkward when you're all logging on and people are joining at different times, but we really like asking that first question. And we've been at some fun ones. The one I enjoyed the other day was, what are you wearing on your feet? Which it was really interesting. And even if you know each other, it could be fun way to start the session. Hashtag to use, how you're feeling. If it's a really big group, maybe you want to keep it really simple with a yes and no, or raise a hand if you agree with. You've got all these options on Zoom. Then the main objective is that you feel connected with the other members of the audience as quickly as possible, and that will really change you know, all the things that you work on together thereafter. Obviously be clear with the format. You know, you're going to be asked to get involved. We're going to ask you questions on the chat. We want your input on it. Ideally, from the notes you got from us beforehand, you knew what to expect and that you're really open and ready to be participative and collaborative. Bonding polls, as I already explained, I'm not going to do another one now, but that shows the similarities in the group, especially, you know, we've got, you know, 50 odd people on the call this afternoon. Hopefully you've seen who's the similarities already. What we've noticed is that the data you get from Zoom in the poll report is this circle on the bottom here. It's really difficult and not very clear and not very user-friendly. Like Michael said, you want to use the information afterwards. So what we've got in the habit of doing is taking a screenshot of when those poll results are on the screen. And that's a really good top tip, because then you can cut and paste and use that content thereafter. Viewing experience, ideally have a really big font. There was some advice from CMX I had recently that nothing lower than 24 point, ideally even 32 to 45, which was much bigger than I had anticipated. So that's really good. Big images, signpost where you are on the journey, and make sure people know the different views. This is something, and again, Michael showed me a few weeks ago. So many of you may be watching this from speaker view, and you have the presentation on one side, and whoever's talking, you have the person in the window next to it. Or maybe you change the gallery view and you can see a list of the people on the right hand side. Now, interestingly, this grey button, which doesn't work because it's a slide, but on your screens, if you move it, you can see more of the people on the right-hand side, and the slides will shrink, and you can flex that accordingly. So that's great. You know, if you're in a team meeting, what did you say? You've got 25, less than 25 people. You might want to see their reactions to the content that the person's going through. You don't want to wait until they're just speaking to see their reaction. So yeah, this is a really cool thing. If you didn't know, it's this grey button. Does that come across, Michael, that they can see that
Yes.
button? Yeah, so turn to gallery view to see more faces, and then adjust the width of the boxes with that button. I think we said we're not Zoom experts or anything, but these are just things that we've found throughout the way. Signposting. I'm halfway through showing you our top 8 tips, and we're trying to, so this is just a slide to show you where we are. If you've been called away and you've just come back, that's a really good way of showing people where we've got to. Obviously, you want it to be collaborative. It's all about those merging of ideas. So really think about what questions you're going to ask, when you're going to ask them, what do you want people to do, be reflective maybe at first, maybe to build that trust and those relationships, and maybe then move on to opinion-based ones, especially if it's a new group that haven't worked together. So I've got a question for you all now. What makes an exceptional collaborative webinar experience for you guys? What have you attended that you were wowed at, or that you'd like to share with the others on the group? We'd love to see your answers in a moment on the chat. So to continue on our 8, before we break out into the groups, this is some tips on breaking out. It's only available on Zoom meetings. It's not available on Zoom webinar. And that's why today we muted you with such a big group on entry, so that we weren't all talking over each of them. You can assign the participants manually or automatically. You can rename the rooms and personalize them. I hope to have done that this afternoon, but we'll see. Set the breakout time limit, you know, when they're going to close, when they're going to come back into the room, perhaps give them some broadcast messages to tell them what's happening throughout. And then ideally have a facilitator, just in case anything goes wrong. They can go back to the person leading it and make sure that they can capture any notes or any experiences like that. Now, we talked about collaboration. Now, I don't know why, but the teams that I've been working with recently haven't thought about using the tools that they use to collaborate on a webinar. They felt that that should happen separately after they've called. So creating a content plan or things like that, they've sort of brainstormed and then left and filled it in separately. And all of these tools, you don't have to just share presentations, and I'm sure you know this, but just in case, it's just a good reminder. You can use Muriel, mind mapping. I think we've had some fans of Mentimeter already. Google Docs, Trello, anything like that. Share the screens, give each other access to annotate at the same time, and you can really make the webinar as collaborative as possible. If you can, give them some preparation and thinking time so that they can come to that session as prepared as possible. Okay, and then the final one, and I love this, just listen to your audience. You know, if it's not working, if there's things that you know they're not responding to, adjust during your webinar. Ideally at the end, do a temperature check on how it went, run a poll for feedback, and regularly check what's worked and what didn't, so you can really reflect and learn. We're all about learning before, during and after, and making the next experience as best as we can. So that was a bit of a whistle-stop tour. Most of them you've experienced this afternoon, but we're going to go into breakouts for to have a play with the whiteboards. Michael, was there anything that came up in the chat that stood out for the exceptional breakout experiences?
Yeah, a lot of it's making it fun, informal, enjoyable. So yeah, like sort of keep it sort of ticking over as well, no filler. And I've got the cardinal sin. My window cleaners just turned up. So, so I've got lucky enough I've got Crisp on my audio at the moment, which is a noise cancelling app. So fingers crossed. I'll go back on mute anyway, but fingers crossed it won't be too noisy during the breakout session. But otherwise, no, it's all been nice and simple stuff. So polls as well, yeah. So, and also, other people mentioned about don't turn up using an iPad. Doesn't always get all the functionality as well. So, and I mentioned about I've got a big screen, so I can see as many people as possible on my screen, which is quite handy.
Great, thank you. Now, I'm not quite ready with the breakout groups, Judy, so you can take a couple of minutes just to do this. That would be great.
I will try to eke it out, and we're a little bit ahead of time as well, so there's no problem. So in a moment, we're going to move into breakout rooms for 15 minutes. That's from when we join them, not from now. Yes, Nancy? Yep. So the task in your breakout rooms is to share and capture the members of your group's good lockdown habits and choose the group's favourite good lockdown habits. Could I have the lockdown slide, please, Nancy? Thanks. So the lockdown habits are things that you've started doing since lockdown and will probably continue to do, and things that you've stopped doing and probably won't start again. And they can be to do with your work life or your home life, but keep it clean, please. You'll be put into the breakout rooms automatically. I think is that what Nancy's doing now? Nancy's allocating us to breakout rooms. Each group will have a facilitator, and the facilitator will introduce themselves and set up a whiteboard. If you have a microphone, you'll be able to talk, so please feel free to unmute yourselves when you get into the breakout rooms. And if you have a camera switched on, people will be able to see you, of course. If you don't want to be seen, please turn your video off. Using the whiteboard, it can be a bit tricky. So it's only a suggested possible way of sharing and capturing lockdown habits. You don't have to do it. Part of the task is to work out how to do it, how to capture the lockdown habits. How are you doing, Nancy?
Not quite ready,
Okay.
but a couple more minutes, maybe even show them how to do it. Oh no, sorry.
The facilitators will set up a whiteboard. The facilitators practiced setting up whiteboards, and that includes me. If you're able to use the whiteboard, if you're on a computer, probably not if you're on a phone. I don't know what the functionality is on a phone. You need to go into the view menu, wake up the view options at the top of your screen, and click on annotate, which will give you permission to write on the whiteboard.
Right.
We can't guarantee that it will work for everybody, not least because Zoom, as Nancy's already said, Zoom changes every day. But if it doesn't work, you can use the chat, you can just talk to each other, you can do other things.
We get a separate chat window for each breakout room.
Yes, you do. So
should have clarified that earlier, shouldn't we?
Yeah. So when you're in breakout rooms, if you chat, as we have been in this main room, if you chat to everyone is everyone in the breakout room. So what happens in the breakout room can't be seen by anybody apart from the people who are in the breakout room. And we don't record the breakout room sessions either. So we've got to remember who's scribbling on the side.
Someone's got clever already.
Are you done yet, Nancy?
One more minute.
Okay.
Sorry.
No,
yeah, this is great.
No problem. A few minutes before the end of the breakout session, Nancy will send a broadcast message to all the groups to say you've got 3 minutes left, and that's just to remind you that you've got to have something, you've got to capture something. I do like all these stars that are appearing on the slide. That's just to remind you that it's now time to start capturing your favourite lockdown habits if you haven't done it already. And then 1 minute before the end of the breakout session, there will be a countdown, and that's preset. So at the end of that countdown, it'll count down every second of the last minute. Then the breakout rooms will close, and then you go back to the main room. You come back to this main room. When we get back to the main room, I'll invite the facilitators to share the favourite lockdown habits.
Right, we're there.
Fantastic. And the facilitators have a copy of what I just said. So if anybody's not taken notes, don't expect you to have done. The facilitators know what to do.
Cool. Right. Sorry about that. What we did is, in practicing what we preach, is we've done personalised rooms. So, you know, the name of the post, and then moving them. I forgot when Michael was doing his bit, I was supposed to move all the people into the rooms, but I was too busy chatting with you all on the chat. So I just had to do that. So, but it's good. This is what we're experiencing. So everyone should go into their rooms now. They've got 15 minutes from now, and then we'll hear back from you all in after that. So enjoy. Oh yeah, sorry.
Naz has just told us that the phone allows you to annotate.
Oh, great. So that's awesome. So enjoy your breakout room. See you on the other side. Bye for now.
Thank you.
Hello. Hello, everybody. Welcome. How are you all? So, are you all following the this session? So if we want to just quickly introduce ourselves, because we haven't spoken before, and then I'll get the whiteboard ready and we can share what you're going to start in, what have you started in lockdown, and what have you, can everyone see my screen okay? So we heard from other people that they hadn't used this feature before, so we thought it would be fun just to have an experience on it. So let's start with introductions. I can't see the names now. Hang on, who have we got? Oh, that's interesting. It doesn't say your names on the breakouts, whereas it does in the other one. Would someone who can see the names? Oh yeah, I can see on the breakouts. Eva from Dumfries, please introduce yourself and say what you've started or stopped or continued. Do you know how to write them on the whiteboard? Who else then? Is it Gordon? Hi, Gordon. Oh, how funny, you got mixed up in the same room. Sorry about that. It's funny, isn't it? Like clothes ironing. Someone put on Facebook, you know, when did I last use an iron? I was thinking it's definitely been a while. It's definitely getting dusty. Jill, what about yourself? Definitely. Great, thanks, Jill. If you want to put that on the yeah, so have you got, so the way that it works is at the top you should see, is it viewing options, and then there's annotate, and then you can add in there's just a couple of people that need to be assigned to a room. I'm just going to add them into our room because they've joined late, so just bear with me 1 second. Right, I'm trying to do 2 things at once, which is never a good thing. Helen, what about yourself? What have you done? Yeah. Yeah, do you know how to, have you ever used the whiteboards before? Because what I'm going to get you all to do before we go back into the main room is, if you use the stamp feature, we can like see if there's a consensus, because obviously I can't share all of them, but I can share you know, a couple back with the I've just realized you can't see my camera, can you? Ah, sorry about that. I don't know, but you know what I look like because you've heard from me, heard from me enough today. Alexander, thanks for just joining. We're just breaking out and discussing what we've started or stopped during lockdown, and to share any tips. I'll come to you in a second, but what for me, I'm a mum. I'm, you know, the kids need our help with the schoolwork and things, so I'm getting up earlier and doing a bit of, when I need to do some writing, you know what it's like just to have some focused quiet time, I'm doing that. And then during the day I can manage it with my husband, but I'm finding that sort of focus time differently. And actually I'm really productive. It's amazing when you haven't got the whole day and you've only got an hour to write a blog post or a report or something, how much more efficient you can be. And so I'm fine. I don't know whether I'll carry that on after lockdown, but I definitely, you know, 6 till 7, 7 till 8, I'm quite eloquent, which is not usual throughout the rest of the day with all the distractions from the family. So I'm not sure if I'd start that. And then stop just worrying. You know, I think I'm a bit of a worrywart and like to have, you know, 9 decisions before I get to my final decision. And this is something that's completely out of our control. So I can't explore all the different things that could or possibly happen. So I'm trying to sort of just walk away, pause, and manage the things that are in my sphere of influence. So, you know, it's funny, it's kind of when everyone else is worrying, I've found to turn off my worries, which is quite fun. Alexander, what about yourself? Do you want to add in, and I'll add in my things on the text. What have you started or stopped during lockdown? Yeah. We can't hear you, or hi there. Oh, I'm sorry. Just say what you've, so since lockdown, since we've all been working from home more, what have you started or stopped? And then I can write them down for you. Oh my goodness. Really? Are you not turning off? Because some of the others were saying they did turn off more because, you know, they're not having the journeys and making that clear demarcation. What have you experienced at work? How are your teams or the people you work with adjusted to this new way of working? Have you found some have embraced it and actually more productive, or have you found it that they're, I don't know. What about anybody else? Oh, that's funny. So we've had 3 that have worked for the same company in a group of, yeah, really strange. What else? What have other people noticed? Are they people being more productive, or are they struggling with these changes?
Hi, Nancy. I think I dropped out and I'm now not in a group. And you can't hear me anyway.
Yeah. Like everyone can do it for a short while, but how is it going to really work in time? And I've been using things like, you know, what I'm missing most is sort of brainstorming in a group. I get so much energy from that, and doing that. That's why I've been using things like Mural and things like that to sort of still do it, because you know, doing that on my own is just not, you know, I don't get the same productivity from it or outputs from it. What about you guys? We were talking about this the other day. Yeah, and we were helping some leaders because they think, oh, we've got nothing new to tell them. We don't want to keep broadcasting. And I said, no, because that will help them speculate, and that uncertainty, that silence, when you're on your own, you think, oh, it's going to be me next, or, you know, there's so much frightened. So that regular check-in, like, got nothing to tell you today, but this is where we're at. What are you working on? Yeah, definitely. It's got to be something that we go. We're going to have to go back into the main room. Can anyone use the annotate just to put a couple of hearts on? Did you see how to do it? So you go on the stamp button, and then you can add in the oh, I don't know what's on there. Can you see it? Ah, there, yeah. Just put a couple of ones on, and Well, yeah, then I could just see which ones are your favourite ones, and then when I save them, I'll share them back with the other group. And then we're going to go, right, that's it, that we're going to go back into the main room. So thank you for that chat. I'm sorry you couldn't see me. And then we'll go and see what the others were discussing as well. See you in a sec. Hi, everybody. How was that? So, hosts, Judy, Michael, Debbie, Becca, and Martin, have you got your outputs? Either share verbally or share the slide if you can.
I can share the whiteboard if you like, Nancy.
Great. How did you get on?
We got the whiteboard working. We found out that the whiteboard tool ribbon, I think, well, we think, because different people have different versions of Zoom, the tools are have different names.
Ah, I did not know that.
Yeah, no, neither did I. But we all managed to write on it, apart from one person who hadn't been able to, who couldn't get into couldn't find the annotate, which actually baffled us a bit. So we used other means of getting it onto the whiteboard. So shall I share our whiteboard?
Yes, please.
Here it is. Can you see it?
Yeah. Oh, that's very neat. Ours was much messier.
I was just thinking exactly the same, Nancy.
So what was the consensus, or what did you?
Well, the favourite started doing, and will probably continue, was helping more in the community. And the favourite stopped doing and probably won't start again was travelling without real justification. But we also we got a bit rebellious and creative and created a third question, which is lockdown habits that we want to stop. So we had laundry, cleaning bathrooms, homeschooling. Now, I'm not sure about the wearing too many clothes, because I thought wearing less clothes was wearing too many clothes was something that somebody had stopped doing. Yes. Oh, that's buying more clothing. Oh, right, okay. So anyway, that's ours. I'll stop sharing, Nancy, so you can go to another.
Michael, are you ready to go? If not, I can. I need to make Breakout Nancy a co-host too. Ah, is this your Michael? Can we hear you? Michael?
That would help if I mute myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, ours are very simple. Hopefully it's good habits. So really expand like the exercising, and also potentially moving some of your training to online, so you get a nice blend between the training online and the face-to-face to bring that community sort of area. And we talked about the bad habit. It was like the waste of time commuting. So we talked a lot around sort of like that sort of area. I mean, we talked around a lot of other things about working environments and maybe working from home more often as well as part of it. But it's really just that I think it's going to be a big culture change for organisations over the next sort of year to how people start to work and how they're going to work with different employees as well.
Did everybody in your group manage to write on the whiteboards, Michael?
No, we talked about it because of different people having different things.
Okay.
So I'll stop sharing my screen. So your turn, Nancy.
Should we go to Martin, Debbie, and then Becca in that order, if that's helpful? Martin, what did your group experience?
Yeah, so one or two issues with using the whiteboard of someone found that the first letter of everything they typed didn't show up. We had one person who was just on the phone, so they were struggling. And I'm now trying to share my slide. But I've lost my Zoom controls.
I think I made you co-host. Let me just check. You're still, yeah, it should be there. I can, don't worry.
It's okay, hang on. I've found an instruction. If you just keep randomly pressing buttons, it says press Alt to show and hide meeting controls.
Oh, that might be useful. I might capture that.
But it's still not really doing anything very much.
You got the share screen, Martin?
No, I've completely lost the menu.
Oh, so we want to
just move your mouse down to under all of the videos, and it'll appear. It just goes to sleep.
It's actually hung.
Don't worry, we'll go to Debbie, and then if you get it, we'll come back to you. There's no, it's just interesting to see how everyone finds. Debbie, how did you get on with your group?
Well, can you see my screen?
Yep.
Yes.
It was complete mayhem in a really positive way. So virtually nearly everybody was able to participate. As you can probably tell, what we couldn't quite work out was when we had two people typing at the same time, there was a real danger of people overlapping. We never quite got control of that. So there's a bit of messiness now, but that's not a bad thing. One or two people couldn't type, so just didn't have the annotate menu, so they were shouting things out, which was great, and that worked absolutely fine as well. Overall, I mean, the technology worked pretty well overall. You can see quite a lot of hearts. We went right to the end of the proper instructions.
Well done.
And we had hearts all over the place and stars, so you can see a little bit of some of that emphasis there. And I had a really good conversation with it. And if I had to sum up something we wanted to stop, something we wanted to start, stopping was definitely the danger of working too long. So even though working from home might sound great, but some people are just finding that hard to control really, and feeling like they're working beyond reasonable time. So that's an issue. Other folks really, really relishing the roads and the fact that you've got lots of people out on bikes and enjoying that. That goes with that whole lack of commuting, but using the roads for pleasure, which is a nice thing to see, and a lot of happiness about that. I think that there's so much there. I could go on for a long time. We had a great chat.
No, but that's really interesting that you overrode each other. So that, and Maria's put it in the chat, maybe some discipline then of the format. And ideally, I think we'd have, Judy, we'd say, wouldn't we, much smaller groups. You know, we've got overwhelmed in the last couple of days with the numbers. And I think 4 or 6 for these sorts of activities are probably more optimal.
We had that as well, Nancy. We had because if people write at the same time and they've all picked the same empty space on the whiteboard, it comes out overlapping. But there's the select tool. You can just drag and drop the writing in its text box to separate them, which I was doing while everybody else was typing.
Okay, I should have paid more attention.
Yeah, we can also other tools like Mural, which I played around with a little while ago. That's really great for, like, you use Post-it notes, so you can pick your own Post-it note to write on. But then it displays it, then you can then start voting on it. So there's other tools out there that you can use that work really well. So it's about knowing what you want to use and what you want to do and picking the right thing for you. But try something different. It's quite useful.
Shall I have another go at sharing my screen now?
Oh, okay. Sorry, Becca, hang on a sec. We'll go back to Martin if he's in a...
Yeah. Hopefully that's come through.
Yeah.
Right, okay. I don't know why I keep losing the control panel at the bottom. So again, we found getting things lined up and not overlapping was a bit of a challenge, but we got there. Stopped habits, a whole bunch of ones around commuting that with slightly different wording, but we reduced it down to that. And a wide range of started habits, more than I was, so a lot more started habits than stopped habits, and quite a few around online tools, using video on calls, daily team catch-ups via MS Teams, and one about virtual choir practice using online tools, which I thought was such a brilliant idea. So yeah, lots around making better use of online tools seem to be the big new thing.
Don't you get a delay if you're for a choir online?
Yeah, you could not be in the same point.
Well, John can perhaps explain, but they all do it on mute, so it's only the choir master who's not muted.
Yeah.
Ah.
Yes.
Wow.
I suppose you've got a lip read, haven't you? Yeah.
Silent choir.
Choir for my kind of singing.
Thank you, Martin.
Oh,
Okay.
somebody's in a virtual ukulele band. So
That is awesome.
That is awesome.
Becca, let's hear from you. How did your group get on?
We had the same experience that other people had with, no, that's not right. It doesn't show it. Hang on, sorry. Because people were using different technology, they had different access to what they could do, what they couldn't do, and it made it quite hard to explain to people to help them. So I did wonder if we were all part of the same organisation, whether that issue would still be there. But hey, what we found again was that there were lots of good habits around not commuting and people who missed the commute because they missed their exercise. So lots of great ideas that I think have probably been covered elsewhere as well.
Great, thank you. Let me share my one. Can you see our group? Now, we were very disciplined, not saying saying anything. Sadly, my camera didn't work on my second Nancy, my breakout Nancy, so but they know what I look like because they've been hearing from me already. But we took it in turns and we shared what we've done, what we've started and what we stopped. And then voted. And then we asked, how people had found whether this had helped being productive. And the main message I wanted to share was, that came out from our discussion, was that people found when it had gone quiet, people then were speculating and worrying about other team members, about leaders and all that sort of stuff. So I think something we can all do as knowledge and community managers is keep that communication going, even if it's just a check-in to say, hi, how are you doing? This is what I'm working on today. Those sorts of things really help the other peers in your teams and things. So mostly the same. Stop driving as much. Sadly, lots of people working much more because they're not having the boundaries between, the sort of cut-off time and the commute home. But other people finding different times to work, like in the mornings and things like that. So I think that was great. I mean, the whole point for today was to experience the whiteboards, experience the breakout groups. Maybe you'll use them in your groups with other webinars, but it's a great way, whatever tool you use, to get that consensus, get those different ideas down in 10, 15 minutes, really, really short time with a group that have never met before. If you want to carry on in the chat now, sharing your experience of just that session, I think that will be useful for us all to learn and share. So I'm going to take over. Judy, what are the learnings from your side that you've just taken away from the session this afternoon on the breakouts? Do you want to say anything?
There's always something that you haven't expected, which I suppose we did sort of expect, because in our practice sessions we said something will happen that we haven't expected. But in particular, I saw in the chat some people who don't have the full Zoom functionality because they've got locked down government supplied laptops. And also I hadn't anticipated that the whiteboards would get quite as crowded as they did, but it was quite easy to move the things around. But everybody was, thanks to everybody who took part in that, because it was just a really nice thing to do. And now we've all experienced it, I hope that we'll feel a bit more confident about doing it again. And things do go wrong, and there's nothing that we can do about it. Things will go wrong, but they go wrong face to face as well. So it's just be brave and don't expect it to be perfect.
And a learning from the facilitations, someone got dropped out and then had to go back in. I didn't remember what room he was in. So thanks, John, for remembering what room you were in so I could put you back in. But that's the thing with, I suppose, with these virtual webinars, when we've got a list of people, but we don't know who comes to the day. So I can't put you in groups until the session's live. You know, there's things like that that we have to do. If we'd done it automatically, which we could have done, but I wanted to have a breakout leader in each group. So I hope that helped your experience, which is why I did it manually and we had that moment just before. So we want to now find out, how have you found today's experience? Has it given you some inspiration to try these different things? Maybe you're never going to have a webinar ever again. What was your experience? We'd love to know. Was it helpful? What did you enjoy the most? And which out of the 8 tips do you think you might try first? We'd love to know. Can everyone see that okay?
I can see it. Don't know
I
anyone
can
else.
see it, Nancy.
Yeah.
Everyone can see it. Great. So we'll give you a minute to do that. And then for the chat, I'd love to know if we could improve this webinar. You know, no, we never pretended we were experts, but we've just done this for a while. These are the things we found that work for us, but we always want to learn. So please tell us, how would you have improved? Maybe had longer in the breakout groups, maybe had, we'll share all the outputs with you so you can see them afterwards. But we'd love to know how we can improve it. I'll give you another couple of minutes so we can get everyone's votes. And Michael, did you take a screenshot earlier? Because I didn't. I forgot that part. Having our own advice. Right, a couple more moments for everyone to vote. And then I will end the poll and share with you the results. So fantastic. Majority, obviously, maybe you wouldn't answer if you didn't find it helpful, but that's great to know that majority they found it helpful or very helpful. Didn't like the polls, not so much, but did like the breakouts and the fun and friendly format. So that's great to know. And then what are you going to try first? The breakout activities. That's great to know that was the most popular. We'd love to know afterwards. You know, we've got this LinkedIn group. We'd love to know what you try. I'm sure you've all got experience that we could learn from. So please keep the conversation going and tell us things that have worked for you that we could try. And we hope that you've, you know, as I say, the ambition was to give you the confidence to try these things. So let's have a look in the chat. What are the comments here? Having a team to manage the breakout sessions was good. The swap shop, yep, you could do that. I couldn't see the slides most of the time, not sure why. Okay, that's interesting. We'll see with the recording. You'll get a copy of the slides, so you'll have all of those to look through. And we've got a little Canva, a little PDF of the top tips, which we thought people always like to take away. Helpful to build confidence, great session. Agree with Martha, like the polls, but I couldn't vote for one. Oh, I'm sorry that you couldn't vote. And you enjoyed doing the whiteboards and could see how they could be used. Great. Judy, Michael, anything further to add before we close today's
session? Thank you for everyone to being so friendly. And I hope you enjoyed it. So it's been really nice. Everyone's been really sort of supportive on this as well. So everyone's got involved and tried it out as best they could.
Yeah, and the same from me. Thanks everybody for joining in and being so friendly and helping each other as well in the breakout rooms and helping me.
As I say, we're an informal group. You know, there's no big company behind any of us. We're just peers that love, you know, sharing our experiences in the knowledge and community field. So if you've got a topic or you've got something that you want to raise, by access to the group, you'll have a copy of all the last webinars. There's ones about AI. There's one about in projects. Becca's done one on coaching. There's all sorts of ones available to you. So feel free to go back and listen to them. keep the conversation going. Let us know what you try and share your tips with us. You know, then we can all learn and get better. This is the PDF that I'll send with you along, hopefully this afternoon, depending how quick Zoom is, with a copy of the recording and the slides.
Nancy, are you happy for me to share that internally within my organisation?
Yeah, of course.
Because I like to promote good things, so.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, all of our content's free. You know, we don't believe in, you know, there's nothing in there. It's just our experience.
Excellent. Thank you.
And as I say, there are Zoom, you know, Zoom do and other providers provide really good training, but we sort of taken away what the things that have worked for us, and we're all about collaboration. So we wanted to showcase the things that maybe could help you collaborate, maybe if it's a new time for you to do it like this. So yeah, definitely, Naz, thank you. Any other questions or comments before we close? We're sorry we couldn't do it in the hour. That was definitely, we always tried to, but we knew that with the breakouts, it was important to stretch to 2:15, but actually we've come in just under. So if you've got any questions or any other comments, feel free to ask. If not, thank you to everyone who supported us. Thank you to you all attending. Thank you to Becca, Martin, Debbie, Judy and Michael for your support. And yeah, keep helping the world share knowledge and collaborate, because we need it now more than ever.
Okay.
A bit of a
Thank you,
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Nancy.
Thanks, guys.
That's been really
Thanks,
good.
everyone.
Thank you.
thanks
Bye for now.
everyone. Bye bye.
Bye.
See you next
Bye.
time.
Bye.
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 Bye. I'm going to stop the recording.